Hello dear students of class 10th, welcome to geography class. I hope all of you are doing well. Students, in this video, I shall be continuing with the exercises of chapter 3rd of geography, that is water resources. So students, in the previous video, I had explained question number 1 and 2 of multiple choice questions. Now, I'll proceed with question number 3rd. So as you can see on the screen, we have question number 3rd. So the question is, here are some false statements. Identify the mistakes and rewrite them correctly. So some false statements, some incorrect statements are provided, they are given. So you have to point out the mistake, you have to identify the mistake and then rewrite the statement correctly. So we have question number A, that is, multiplying urban centers with large and dense populations and urban lifestyles have helped in proper utilization of water resources. Is this statement correct? No, this statement is not correct, because multiplying urban centers means growing more and more. Urban centers are growing at a rapid scale and population is also growing at a rapid scale. There is a population explosion, I would say. So has the increase in population and growing or growth of urban centers, have they helped in proper utilization of water resources, or they have created an imbalance? They have created an imbalance. So this statement is false. So the correct statement will be, multiplying urban centers with large and dense populations and urban lifestyles have resulted in improper utilization of water resources. Yes, there is a improper utilization. Unequal distribution of water is there in the society. So this statement is false. Next, question number B. Regulating and damming of rivers does not affect the river's natural flow and its sediment flow. This statement is absolutely false, because damming and regulating of rivers, it actually creates an artificial flow. An artificial flow is created, and also the sediment flow is also lost, I would say, because the sediments, the fine particles, the fertile land, the fertile soil, that is unable to pass with the help of dams or multi-purpose projects. It gets settled down in the reservoir, and as a result of which the river, the stream is very rocky. So this statement is false, and the correct statement will be, regulating and damming of rivers does affect the river's natural flow and its sediment flow. So it does affect. Now let's come to question number C. In Gujarat, the Sabarmati Basin farmers were not agitated when higher priority was given to water supply in urban areas, particularly during drought. So this statement is false, because in Gujarat, farmers agitated when priority was given to the urban areas, because the farmers they raised their voice as they wanted water during drought, and so there was a conflict between the farmers and the urban societies, the urban areas, as the farmers told that we need water for irrigation, and the urban centers, the urban areas, they were arguing, they were fighting, as they told that they need water for consumption purpose, for fulfilling their domestic as well as daily needs. So there was an agitation. So the correct statement will be, in Gujarat, the Sabarmati Basin farmers were agitated when higher priority was given to water supply in urban areas, particularly during drought. So the last question of this multiple choice question, question number D. Today in Rajasthan, the practice of rooftop rainwater harvesting has gained popularity despite high water availability due to the Indira Gandhi Canal. So as I explained you that this statement is false, as because of Indira Gandhi Canal there is a decline in rooftop rainwater harvesting. So the correct statement will be, today in Rajasthan the practice of rooftop rainwater harvesting has declined due to high water availability due to the Indira Gandhi Canal. So I hope that till here all the questions are clear to everybody. Now students, let's move to question number 2. So question number 2 is, answer the following questions in about 30 words. So let's proceed with this question. So in this we have question number 1, as you can see. So question number 1 is, explain how water becomes a renewable resource. See, water is a renewable resource, and I have also explained this, that why water is considered as a renewable resource. So water is considered as a renewable resource because the groundwater and surface water gets recharged continuously. Yeah, it gets recharged continuously due to the hydrological cycle, and there are 3 steps that are required in there are 3 steps that are involved in this hydrological cycle. The 3 steps are evaporation, condensation and precipitation. See, the water that disappears from the surface of the earth due to evaporation comes back in the form of rain or precipitation. So this process of water cycle is never ending. This is a continuous process which makes water a renewable resource. That means the water, the surface water and the groundwater level, the groundwater that gets recharged because of this process, because of hydrological cycle. That is why water is considered as a renewable resource. Okay, let's come to question number 2. Question number 2nd. So question number 2nd is, what is water scarcity and what are the main causes? So I have already explained you in the first video when I started this chapter about water scarcity and the main causes of water scarcity. So first students, let me come to the first part of this question, that what is water scarcity. So it is a situation where there is a lack of fresh water resources to meet the water demands. When the demand is more than the supply is less, demand is more, then water scarcity is created. When we need more water but there are less resources, right? That refers to water scarcity. Now let's come to the second part of this question. What are the main causes? I have explained you so many causes, and I hope that you remember that this portion, that means the causes of water scarcity, I explained by taking 2 dimensions. The 2 dimensions were the first was the geographical dimension or geographical approach, and second was social dimension. See, please cut this line. So I hope that you remember that how I explained you about the causes of scarcity of water. I took 2 dimensions. The first was quantitative dimension and the second was qualitative dimension. In quantitative dimension, I explained you that the growing population, the over exploitation and unequal distribution of water among social groups, they are creating, or these are the reasons that are causing water scarcity. Also, because of industrialization and urbanization, water scarcity we are facing today, because as the population is increasing day by day, yes, it is increasing day by day, so the population needs water to drink, not only to drink, rather to do several work, rather to carry out the everyday work, to carry out the household work, and not only to carry out the household work, the population, the human beings, they need to eat also, they need to eat food. And how is food crops cultivated? Are food crops cultivated without water? No, they require water. So in order to meet the needs of the population, the excessive needs or the needs of the excessive growing population, we are facing water scarcity. And if I come to the qualitative approach, then because of the bad quality of water, because the water is polluted, it is not fit for drinking, it is not suitable for drinking, we are facing water scarcity. Even if water is there in sufficient quantity, it is polluted, it is not in proper condition, that cannot be used by us. If we will use that water, it will definitely cause negative impact or negative effects on our health. So these are the reasons why we are facing water scarcity. So I hope that this question is clear to everybody. So let's come to the third question. The question is, compare the advantages and disadvantages of multi-purpose river projects. So I have already explained you in detail regarding the advantages and disadvantages of multi-purpose projects. So first let me come to the advantages. What are the advantages? See, the name only suggests several advantages. Multi-purpose, that means for several purposes. These projects are constructed, they are made in order to fulfill several purposes, multiple purposes. So first of all, irrigation. Water is needed to grow crops, to cultivate. If water will not be there, can we eat? We cannot. So water is necessary for irrigation. So multi-purpose projects provide water for agricultural purpose. Secondly, to generate electricity. Yes, water is also needed to generate electricity. Third, to control flood. Definitely, multi-purpose projects, they create a barrier. If I talk about dam, then dam creates a barrier. A barrier is created, and as a result of which water flows in a proper direction, in proper channels. Water is not overflown if dams or reservoirs are created. So multi-purpose projects helps to control flood. Then water supply for industrial and domestic purposes. Definitely there are industries are growing at a rapid scale. So how will the industries run? There are several power plants. How will they run without water? So these multi-purpose projects, they supply water to the industries and also for domestic purposes. Then next point is tourist attraction. That means, or you can say recreation. These sites of multi-purpose projects, or wherever dams are constructed, they attract tourists, they attract people, as a result of which revenue is generated. That means it gives a boost to the economy. So this is also one advantage. Then inland navigation. I explained you about inland navigation, that it is a transport system allowing ships to use inland waterways. So these are the advantages of multi-purpose river projects. Now let me come to the disadvantages. See, the natural flow of water is affected, causing poor sediment flow and excessive sedimentation at the bottom of the reservoir. I have already explained you these topics, these points. Of course, if multi-purpose projects like dams or canals will be built, they will actually, the natural flow of water will be affected. Definitely it will be affected, because it will create an artificial flow of water. That flow will not be natural, that will be artificial. And also excessive sediment, it causes excessive or creates excessive sedimentation at the bottom of reservoir. As I told you, as I had already explained you, that with water, the topsoil, sometimes the topsoil, the fertile soil is also washed away. But if reservoirs are built, that topsoil or the sediments, that the fertile part, that will settle at the bottom of reservoir, and that will not be able to pass to the agricultural fields or in any field. As a result of which, the fertile part, the productive part, that is settled at the bottom of the reservoir. Next, the aquatic life gets affected. Definitely the aquatic life gets affected. Why? Because the stream gets rockier, it gets very rocky, as a result of which the aquatic life is affected. They have to migrate for spawning, that means for reproduction. The aquatic life, they have to migrate. Then submergence of land in the surrounding area. See, the vegetation of that place is submerged into that water, into the reservoir. So this also affects our nature. Then large scale displacement of people, very important. Construction of multi-purpose river projects, they displace several people, a lot of people are displaced, especially the local peoples and the tribal peoples. They have to leave their land, they have to leave their livelihood, they have to leave everything, they have to leave. So this is also one important disadvantage of multi-purpose river projects. So I hope that till here all the points are clear to everybody. Now students, let me move to question number 3rd, that is, answer the following questions in about 120 words. So the first question is, discuss how rainwater harvesting in semi-arid areas of Rajasthan is carried out. See, I have already explained you that in arid areas and semi-arid areas of Rajasthan like Bikaner or Barmer, rooftop rainwater harvesting is practiced or done. See, these areas, they had underground tanks or tankas for storing drinking water. Tanks are called as tankas, and these tanks, they could be as large as a big room or of different sizes depending upon the house. So the size of the tankas could be according to the people, and you know, these tanks or tankas, they are built inside the main house or the courtyard, and these tanks were connected to the sloping roofs of the houses through a PVC pipe, as you can see in the picture also, that the roof of the house, it is connected to the tanks with the help of this PVC pipe, and from the PVC pipes, water is easily transferred. If the water is easily transported to the tankas or in the tankas, and this water can be used for further use at the time of scarcity or at the time of shortage, or when the other sources are dried up, particularly in the summer season. And you know, this is a very reliable source of drinking water, and also it is called as Palar Pani in Rajasthan, and is considered as the purest form of natural water. Also students, it helps to beat the summer heat, as the tankas, they are generally kept underground, so they help to keep the room cool as they are kept underground. Also students, the first spell of rain, the first spell of rain is not generally used, or that water is not collected, as it would clean the roofs and the pipes. So this way in Rajasthan, rooftop rainwater harvesting is done. Now students, let's come to the last question, as you can see on the screen. So the question is, describe how modern adaptations of traditional rainwater harvesting methods are being carried out to conserve and store water. See, rainwater harvesting is a viable alternative both economically and environmentally. And in ancient India, along with sophisticated hydraulic structures, there existed an extraordinary tradition of water harvesting system. And as I had already explained you, I had already told you that rainwater harvesting, it is practiced in different areas according to the situations. For example, in hilly areas, the technique is something different. In desert areas, the technique is different. But the main motto is to conserve water. So now I am going to explain you that in which area, how water is harvested and stored. So let me come to the mountainous regions of Western Himalayas. So there gulls and kulls were created. Now what are gulls and kulls? See, people built diversion channels or impoundments on the hilltop. That means the hilltop was the top area of the hill was cleared, and impoundments were created to store water. And as I had already explained you that these hills are not hollow, so water can easily be stored on the hilltop by clearing the top portion. So this is the first way. Second we have khadans and johats. So in areas of Jaisalmer and Rajasthan, these are found. See, in arid soil, the agriculture fields were converted into rain-fed storage structures. As in arid soil, the water retention capacity is very low. So, here the water is stored in the fields, and so what happens? The soil absorbs the water and becomes moisturous. And in future, whenever crops are cultivated in that soil, the crops would get moisture. So, this way khadans and johads are done. Next, we have bamboo drip irrigation system. As I told you that this is a very old system to transport water from one place to another, and this let me tell you that this is a 200-year-old system of transporting water, and this system is practiced in Meghalaya. So, here bamboos are used as artificial pipes to transfer water from one place to another. See, the bamboos, they are connected with the streams to the fields, and you know, about 18 to 20 liters of water enters the bamboo pipe system and gets transported over hundreds of meters and finally reduces to 20 to 80 drops per minute at the site of plant. So, in this system what happens? A lot of water is wasted since the bamboos are open, so that is why leakages are also there. So, because of this, a lot of water is wasted, but this is a very old system of transporting water from one place to another. And lastly, we have inundation channels. In the floodplains of Bengal, people developed inundation channels to irrigate their fields, and you know, these are the channels that are meant to carry the overflow of water from rivers and other water bodies to fields for irrigation. So, I hope that all the questions are clear to everybody, all the topics are clear to everybody, and I also expect and hope that these videos will prove helpful and beneficial to all of you. So, with this note, so students, I'll meet you again in the next video with a new chapter. Till then, please revise your lessons well, study properly, be healthy and safe. Thank you so much.